Welcome to the Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto Show. I'm your host, Tony Arterburn. I'm broadcasting from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver.com studios in beautiful Branson, Missouri. We almost, as a collective audience, ladies and gentlemen, we almost had Beans the Brave on this microphone. You could have heard her. She went nuts. Somebody tried to open my front door and kept knocking on it right before we went live, because we close at 6 p.m. Central Time. So Beans thought that's not right and jumped off the couch, and she sprang into action, and I'm glad that I was able to retrieve her just in time, like seconds before we went live. Great to be here. We're going to go into the gold and crypto markets. I found an article on LewRockwell.com that I read on the Arterburn radio transmission today. I didn't pay it enough attention. It came out a few days ago. It's about how the Fed and the central banks alike are crashing the global economy on purpose. And I thought, wow, does that sound familiar? Isn't that like the theme of everything I talk about? And of course, it's a really dense article, great points in here and great history. So I'll probably bring that up today. I've got my co-host, Kinsey, host of Fringe Files, a magnificent researcher, Gen Z. And she's the reason the Pentagon ran a Gen Z Bitcoin revolt drill. They ran the simulation for you and your ilk, Kinsey, and I'm glad that you're here. I saw the link tree you sent me just before we went live. You titled it Selling Off Grandma's Gold Coins. We'll have to get into that. How are things with you?
I think I'm becoming obsolete, Tony. I honestly think that.
You think you're becoming obsolete?
I'm becoming obsolete. I'm pretty sure we're having show issues because all of my devices are still 4G devices, and they need to push me into the 5G microwave, fry my brain type systems. I'm feeling it. I'm becoming obsolete, guys.
Yeah, well, we need you to be like us. We need you to be surrounded by 5G, and we want your cells to change. We want you to be fundamentally transformed into something else. No, you're not obsolete. You know, I live off grid too, and of course, though, all the modern things that I have here at the Wise Wolf Studios, like my internet and all the Wi-Fi and the phone lines and everything, and the electric, that makes it a lot easier on me. People don't realize, what you're actually doing. You're running your shows off grid, and I do that sometimes, and I'll never forget. I was on with Billy Ray Valentine, and somebody said in the audience, he sounds like he's coming out of a can. And Billy said, "There's a lot of wisdom in that can, though."
There's
a lot of smarts in that can, or something like that. I just laugh for days. I think that's pretty funny. But I do sound like I'm in a submarine or something if I'm broadcasting from my cabin most of the time. But we're glad to have you. Crazy times as always. The theme of my radio show today was basically the politics of population control, which goes into the economic devastation that is being planned and being carried out on purpose. We can get into a little bit. I don't know if you caught the show today, but there was
I did.
That was kind of the theme of it, and we'll get into some of that tonight. I've got some news on gold, news on Bitcoin. We'll talk a little bit about maybe some of your the picks that you're looking at on the cryptos. I know you love the meme coins, and you're really into that. I'm kidding. What is going on? What's up with your research, Kinsey?
Um, I it's not like I've had a ton of research necessarily. It's more like sit back and reflect on what's going on around me. A bit of this week I had time to do that. And actually what really helped me open up to that was do you know who George Gammon is, Tony?
I heard the name.
Okay, so he's picking up the In the Fed movement. And I was watching his live stream the other night, and man, I've got to say, it hit home so hard because he was actually discussing he doesn't know what he would do if he was 25 years old, which I'm 25 years old, and put in the position of where we are today, as far as he's made his name on investing. And basically, the way that he put it is almost all investments in the US are bad right now. They're all risky. But what do you do? And it really gave me some time to kind of reflect on that because we're feeling that. In fact, one of the links that I shared tonight is CNBC actually talking about gold losing its status as a hedge against inflation. And temporarily, I think that that's going to be the case. I don't think that that's necessarily the case forever with precious metals. But you are kind of seeing that. So if you were somebody that was only invested in gold and silver, that might have not been enough. And people get mad at me all the time because I am into cryptos, but that's kind of what's helped me succeed. But there's so much risk with that. And I get that. Everything is risk, right? Doing nothing is risky as well. So I feel like there's got to be a ton of people kind of feeling the same thing. And that's just kind of where my head is at because it's so difficult right now. It's never easy starting a new business or doing anything, but I need to get out of my comfort zone. And I think a lot of us need to get out of our comfort zone just to figure out, where we can make our place in this time. What was successful yesterday might not be successful tomorrow. And that's a huge reason we do this show is it's ever growing, it's ever expanding. You don't want to be stuck in one place. Just, self-reflect, trying to figure out how to be more flexible as to what's going to come.
I agree. It's funny. I pick up on trends, and of course, I read history. And I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be the smartest guy in the room, but I notice things. I notice patterns. And if you look at the trend of human beings in the last
Mhm.
500 years, it's been to decentralize. Whether you're talking about the Protestant Reformation, the American Revolution, the Industrial Revolution, all these things that carried us with technology and with culture closer to the entrepreneur, which we know is the modern day entrepreneur. And as people, you've seen America go through this trend as well with globalization. With globalization became um, a more direct approach to the individual, again, decentralizing from companies, like people starting their own thing, like the living wage isn't there, so I have to go out and make my way and do something else. I'm not going to have the factory job that my grandfather had. I'm not going to get the pension or any of that, so I go off and I strike out on my own. Really that's more or less the American dream, is to have your own, picket fence, own your own home, have your own business, have something, right?
Mhm.
Not necessarily to work for anyone. So it's interesting, your age too, looking at the future, like what to invest in, what to be a part of. My advice, if I was starting all over again, and I've had to start all over again many times in my in my adventure as an entrepreneur, and I would advise to invest in yourself. The
Mhm.
greatest investment you can make is in you. Getting new information, signing up for seminars, learning about how to buy and sell real estate, learning how to what this
Can
is
I
true.
actually No, I know it's true. The sad thing is that live Q&A that I was watching with George Gammon. I'm not stepping on anybody's parade here, but he did have an event coming up in Dallas or in Houston, and I was like, "Oh, well, that's close enough for me." And I love everybody that's speaking. I know this sounds so silly, but I was like, "That sounds like a great vacation." I go and I look, Tony, and one ticket was $767. So And you know,
Right.
I can't fly, so I'm going to drive out there and figure out what to do with my dogs. All in all, this seems like a trip that could easily cost $2,000 at the end of the day because I'm still having to pay for my hotel and food and gas. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm not going on vacation. Not because we can't necessarily afford it, just because it seems kind of silly. That was kind of outrageous. Could I go and do that? Sure. But could I also put my money somewhere wiser? Most definitely.
Well, you ever heard the expression, it's like the poor man's version, like find the poor man's version of that seminar and then go to that one, or go to the event and then you can work your way up. I've had to, I learned from watching my dad and watching my grandfather and, build convenience stores and restaurants and just being a kid in Dallas, riding around, watching all that happen. And I thought that was normal. You build things, you work on things, and a business is 7 days a week. That's just what I came up with, right?
Hmm.
But I also learned a lot of things from books and from going out and working on seminars. I learned real estate on my own, like how to do retail real estate, and I did that for many years after I got out of the military. But, it's funny, we should probably name the show, we should do Gold, Crypto, and Entrepreneurial Hour or something, because you and I tend to get on this same subject because it's part of this, like, with the
It's
death
the
of the
only way to get ahead, right?
yeah, well, it's
If
the
you're
death of the old.
stuck, none of us are actually stuck in the 9 to 5. It's about you do need to have some courage. I mean, there is so much risk that goes on when trying to build something, but it's kind of like an important aspect of the whole thing, right? With risk, there could be reward. And if it doesn't turn out successful, well, you learn something. I'm sure both of us have had plenty of failures going through and just trying to start something new, or maybe a couple of roadblocks. And it's always a learning experience. It's never, oh, I failed. It's, oh, I've learned something new. How do I apply that here, or somewhere else in my life? Just working that normal 9 to 5, I think most people, I'm not trying to diss on anybody that does that. That's definitely not where I'm coming from, guys. But you're giving yourself a cap. You're giving yourself a limit as to what you can do while you're here on Earth. And I don't know that any of us should necessarily be giving ourselves some kind of cap, a limit, or a ceiling to reach.
I agree. I mean, this is the time to think outside the box, because what I was saying earlier was that the old order, the economic order, there's a controlled demolition going on. They're gonna take out the whole thing. I mean, you wonder
Mhm.
why the dollar hasn't been taken care of. It's got velocity, all right. It's got terminal velocity. They're sending it into oblivion, and they're going to replace it with something else. This is the problem, reaction, solution, Hegelian dialectic type operation, just with currency, and that just happens to control pretty much everything. People are controlled by currencies. So, no, you're absolutely right, and I think finding out, what your calling is, that's a good way to go. If you want to talk about wealth preservation, invest in yourself. And one of the ways you can do that is, if you're going to save money, save an asset. This is one of the things I harp on all the time. Save an asset. I don't care if you start out with 1 ounce of silver and work your way up. Get something that is tangible, it's real, and it's tied
Mhm.
to history. There's other things I think that they're assets too, like firearms, storable food. These are things that I don't really necessarily deal in, but I see them as assets. Land is one of those things. But we haven't done that enough, talking about the investment in yourself, Kenzie. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely need to do that. I think some people get really mad at me because maybe they don't know enough of my life story. Just as this is advice that I would give anybody, it's what I did. And it's obviously not financial advice, but I'll just kind of give people a rundown of our story, me and my partner. The only reason I think that anybody should save a good chunk of change, Tony, is to buy a plot of land and have a good down payment on that, or for a house. And not because you're going to flip it 5 years later or 10 years later. No, 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 no. A house is not a liquid asset, and sometimes land is not so liquid either. This is something for yourself, something that you can pass on to other generations. And that's the only thing that we've ever really saved up some money for. And, some of that comes with thinking outside the box too, because if you figure out it's going to take you 5, 10 years to save 20 or $30,000, or in some cases more, depending on what you're trying to buy, you have got to think outside of the box on how to make that money sooner, because today that works. 5 years from now, that same piece of land that you're looking at could go up tenfold, and now your down payment doesn't really mean much anymore again. Um, so this is why I say about thinking outside the box and having multiple different areas of investments, because while one is down, the other could really be performing and help you get to where your goal is. A lot of people, Tony, it kind of upsets me. It's become kind of just a meme as far as getting off grid, or just going and finding a place to call your own. And I don't think that this should just be a meme. It shouldn't just be a dream on the internet. It is something that people can make happen. And once you have yourself established, which I wouldn't say we're 100% established, there's always a wrench that could be thrown in somewhere. Um, but I was so strict on what our monthly payments would be after putting a down payment onto somewhere. I wanted to make sure that if we're going to get a home, it doesn't take us 30 years to pay it off. It needs to be 10 years or less. All of these things make it extremely difficult, but by the grace of God, there was kind of like a sign that led us here. And it's been, I wouldn't say like the perfect spot, but it's the best thing for us. It's what works. It's what we're happy with. And I thank God every day that I'm here. But I don't have this ginormous payment that I have to make monthly, right? Like even if all hell broke loose, I can still maintain what I have here, and that's because of investments in other areas that I've looked into, right? Like I've got a buffer zone. If the worst came to worst, I can hold on to this, and that really means something. I mean, 20 something acres around that. That's how many 25, even 30-year-olds can say that. It's
I went a different route when I got out of the military, and it was 2004.
what happened.
And well, I bought an historic home, and that's
Hmm.
how I 3,000 square feet. It was about under 150,000. Then I started to buy. I noticed that the entire street had like homes that needed to be fixed up. They were, in an old neighborhood
Yeah.
in a town, downtown Bonham, Texas. This is the home of Sam Rayburn, who was the Speaker of the House of Representatives for many years and friends with Harry Truman. Anyway, um, I bought up. You know what? I got up underwater because the housing market crashed,
Hmm.
and I thought, well, I'll just put renters and all these things. But I learned a valuable lesson about leverage. There's
Mm-hmm.
good leverage, and then there's leverage that you get you got the stack so high, you leverage up with your with with your lever, and you get and it falls on you.
Hmm.
That's what happened to a 20-something-year-old Tony. I learned a valuable lesson about debt and
You
about
know, since you brought that up, that actually fits in perfectly with one of the articles I sent you, and I titled that one "Selling Grandma's Gold." And this has to do with the Turkish lira just continuing to plummet. That's why they are selling grandma's gold. That was inherited wealth. These people were already up to their eyeballs in debt. And a lot of people think, oh, well, I can get into as much debt as I want. I see this all the time, Tony. I can just get into so much debt because inflation is going to erode it away. They are dealing with a massive, phenomenal amount of inflation over in this country. The
yeah,
Turkish lira is done for, right? Like you're not selling grandma's gold just because, or I hope not. If anybody's doing that, you deserve a slap on the wrist. That's not okay. um, but inflation is not helping them get rid of the debts that they have, Tony. The inflation isn't even enough as far as what they're getting paid. They can't even get basic necessities. These people have been forced into not eating meat for over a year. So for anybody out there that thinks, "Oh, I can just get whatever amount of debt that I want, I can go and drop 500,000 or more on a home." I've got a good feeling that your job is not going to keep up and help inflate away the price of that debt. Like it's not going to happen. And we see this time and time again in a couple of countries through my research, Tony. And this is one really big reason that I understand debt and using it to your advantage, but I can never understand why people would let themselves have that much leverage. It just puts you in such a vulnerable place. And sometimes we've got to go through some major hiccups to figure out, oh man, like I don't want to do that again. I touched it, it's hot, not going to do that. And that's the scariest thing that I see today. It's in the stock market, it's in real estate, it's in cars, it's in anything that you can think of. People are up to debt in their eyeballs and using every little bit of leverage that they can. And TikTok investors kind of advertise this as some kind of secret that the banks don't want you to know about. No, they love it. You putting absolutely nothing down on a home, carrying all the risk, and it could be in anything, and it's not a secret. It's not a secret at all. The reason it's there is to make sure that all of us are in as much debt as possible.
I pulled up the article that you sent me. This is off CNBC.
Mhm.
Gold is losing its status as an inflation hedge. Two traders warn. It's losing its
They at
status.
least they at least do speak, Tony, about how if the dollar continues to, go the direction that it's going, which we all know is zero, worthless, and if we continue to print, then it's still a good hold, but that's like way far down. And, most people don't make it that far into the article. They just care about the headline. And
Well, they're really
temporarily,
trying, aren't they?
oh yeah, definitely.
It
I
says
agree with
gold's
this to a point.
reputation. Well, listen to this. It says gold's reputation as a reliable hedge against inflation is at risk as investors find other areas of the market where they can hide out from rising prices. Where would that be? I think investors need to think about it differently. The precious metal hasn't produced a positive return during periods of consistent inflation since the 1970s, the firm's chief investment officer said. Well, all right. Well, what was your distillation of this? What's the synopsis of that? Are they going to tell me about how the stock market has outpaced gold and silver?
I think that this is a far reach to get more people into the stock market. I really do believe that. I don't think that there was any mention of crypto or anything like that, and I'm not telling anybody to go jump into crypto. Right now is a very interesting time if you were going to go all in. Don't advise it. But I think that they're trying to push people into stocks. And for now that keeps up, but we all know, you've seen it before. You go to bed one night and you're up 1,000 points, and you wake up the next day and they're turning everything off because it's all collapsing around you. So
Yeah, Andrea C in the chat says no better news for gold to go up than a negative report from mainstream propaganda channel. Well, isn't that true? I mean, I was talking about red flags, like, hey, you should be worried, and I've never been so cautious, so on guard, so red flagged as I was when Jim Cramer of Mad Money came out and said that it's the best economy he's ever seen. It's unstoppable. And I'm going, what next? And of course, they run these kind of reports. That's why you got to pay attention to the mainstream. And for the same reason that Sun Tzu admonished that you should know your enemy. Pay attention. Right. Let's see what else. What did they put in this? Since this year, you've seen inflation hedge really being in the real estate investment trusts and real estate segment of the market. Well, that's not untrue. I don't know about real estate investment trust. I don't know about REITs, but actual real. Like a house, like a 322, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. I mean that those pretty much around the country are stable. Although I did read a report today about population declines throughout a great deal of what used to be like the big powerhouses of population are losing population. A
mhm.
lot of blue states for whatever reason, right? I don't know why. Is it the Soros controlled DAs or the economic Cloward and Piven? Not sure. I'll let you get back here in a second, Kinsey. I want to read this one last paragraph here. It says, if the dollar continues to weaken, gold should get a move, but a number of other metals may actually be better places to play, because there's a narrative behind those in terms of planetary decarbonization and green energy.
Are
What
they
did I
telling us to get
read?
in silver?
This is new speak, and I'm having. Let me get my millennial translator out real quick. Yeah, the better places. There'll be other metals that may actually be better places to play because there's a narrative behind those in terms of planetary decarbonization. My good lord. Planetary decar. You know that we're carbon life forms, right? They want to get rid of the carbon. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I'm glad I must have missed that one. You do it. This is why Kenzie's on the show, folks. This is why when she's my age, I mean, she'll have an entourage. She won't even remember who I am when she's my age.
Oh, that's
Let's
so not
see.
true. That is so not true. But I do want to say, for those of you out there that have interest in other metals, I've got space to do it, but I keep all of this is going to sound so redneck, Tony. I keep all of my metal trash, all of my aluminum cans. I've got a ton of copper wiring, the big, thick, heavy duty stuff that was for my old batteries. I've kept all of my old batteries from the old system for my solar setup. All of these things, they don't seem very precious in the moment, but man, when they catch a run and you've been collecting since it was so low, that can be a very good little payday. In fact, that's how I first ever started making money, was scrap metals. I'd pay my dad the gas money to go and pick some trash up or some scrap up from Craigslist or Facebook or wherever. And also at his mechanic shops, he's got a deal with them to where any place he's ever worked at, an old engine or something that's, it's not worth rebuilding. I could also get a percentage of that if I took the time to take the entire thing apart and sort out what was what, sort out the aluminum, sort out the steel, sort out copper, platinum. So we had our own little deal, and I've kept up with that. I mean, as a kid, I wish I did smarter things with that money over going to concerts or just spending it on stupid stuff. Man, if I only knew what I know now, it'd be different.
Well, I was buying Bitcoin at 300, so why don't I have a Lambo? Why don't I have a private Montana ranch, of thousands of acres? So it's because I bought ATMs. I mean, I still saw it. It was great, but I went into the direction of servicing customers instead
I
of
think that this show should actually be open to that sort of discussion, since you mentioned Montana. That is one of my goals, to have land in Montana, because it's insanely expensive. So if anybody's open to it, the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver chat here, Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto, should we all just get together and buy a plot of land in Montana? I noticed they don't have very much 5G out there, Tony. I was looking at the maps the other night, and it's like impossible at the moment. So we could all be safe together in Montana.
Well, yeah, if you get 5G, you have to get matching chemtrails to go with it. You have to get a lockdown police state. That makes the trifecta complete. I want to welcome everybody in the chat. You mentioned the chat earlier, Kenzie, and of course, we're streaming on all the technocratic controlled platforms. If you're seeing us on those platforms and you know what platforms I'm talking about, I don't want to mention them while I'm on Aftermath.fm, which is our fallback position, is where you can find us 7 p.m. Central Time on Tuesdays, opening up for the great Billy Ray Valentine. You can find us at Aftermath.fm when, not if, our channels are deleted on these other platforms for talking about, well, the markets, for challenging the Fed, for just being outside of the box, right? They don't like that. They don't like it when you challenge the narrative. They have teams of people working around the clock to tell you how great everything is and how wonderful, and you should just really get back into the stock market and don't worry about gold. Don't look over here behind the curtain that all the central banks just broke the all-time record of ordering gold. Don't look at that. Nobody's ordering it. Don't look over here. Just pay attention to the casino. So I mentioned Aftermath.fm, and I'm looking right now at the chat. If you guys in the Aftermath.fm chat, I'm there as Wise Wolf. You can send me a question, comments. I'll look at that as well. And of course, we'll pay attention. You pay attention to the Technocracy chat, and I'll pay attention to Aftermath.fm, Kenzie. That'll be the deal we'll have this evening. So we got a couple more articles to jump into. I got news on gold. We'll do the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver price breakdown for the day. I mentioned, we have a radio show. I say we, me and Beans the Brave. It's called the Art of Burn Radio Transmission. It's every day, weekdays, 3 p.m. Central Time on Aftermath.fm. And today I mentioned, And I have to mention in this show too, if you ever want to check prices, folks, if you want to know in real time, either on your mobile device or on your computer, pull up wisewolf.gold. It's going to give you all the crypto prices streaming across the top page, and it's going to give you the gold and silver price. You don't even need me, but I hope that you'll still tune in. You don't need me to read the prices, but you're welcome to. I'll put this up on the screen. So I wanted to go, you've got a couple more things to go into, Kenzie, but I wanted to read, if I may, read this this just a paragraph of this article that I talked about on my radio show today. And this is from William Engdahl over, and it's through LewRockwell.com. And I thought this was a fantastic synopsis just in the opening paragraph. And the article is called, "Will the Fed Crash Global Financial Markets for Their Great Reset?" It says it's looking increasingly likely that the U.S. Federal Reserve and the globalist powers that will use the dramatic rising of inflation as their excuse to bring down the U.S. financial markets, and with it, crash the greatest financial bubble in history. The enormous inflation rise since the malicious political lockdowns and the trillions of dollars in emergency spending by both Trump and Biden, coupled with the continuation of the Fed's unprecedented near zero interest rate policies and asset purchases of billions in bonds to keep the bubble inflated a bit longer, have set the stage for an imminent market collapse. Unlike what we are told, it is deliberate and managed. I thought I read that.
Oh my goodness.
That just really sums everything up. And of course, that's a great detailed article. I'll put it in the show notes. But I wanted to read that to the Aftermath.fm audience here for the Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto Show, because that is you talk about the global elite, the bankster class, they have a mission to control the wealth and assets and property of this planet. In order to do that, I think with the technology they have, they're going to remake the economy and they're going to be out in front of it. So it's like, that famous line from Vietnam, we had to destroy the village in order to save it. Right? That's just something they're doing, creative destruction right now. And if we're looking at things with normalcy bias, i.e., if we think things have always been a certain way, so they'll continue to go in that trend, we will be left holding the bag. And so my job is to talk to you about these things. I feel that on the horizon. It's not tomorrow, but it's going to be very soon. And they're going to, kick off these market crashes and then have other plans in mind. When you hear that, what is it, Rahm Emanuel quote, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." I mean, you hear that all the time. They use crises. They use these things to push through, like, the war on terror. You get the Patriot Act, which is used to target patriots, but they scare you and they say, well, we need to know everything about your bank account. We need to know if you withdraw more than $3,000. We got to know that or the terrorists win. And you're like, okay, and that's what the American people did. We need to monitor all your phone calls. We need to know what you type and text or the terrorists win. And then this will be the same thing with financial markets. What it'll be is a bloodletting of the competition for the billionaire class and the trillionaire class. Bernie Sanders had to cross off millionaire because he's like, he used to say the millionaire and the billionaire class. Well, he's a millionaire now. So he's just a billionaire, but now he can add trillionaire if he'd like. So you have to add in the trillionaire class, right? But it's going to be a bloodletting, in my opinion. And I mean a financial bloodletting, in the sense that the people that compete directly with the largest capital stakeholders, the people with the, 40 level deep holding companies and stuff, they don't like competition, folks. And what it's going to be used for, they'll say, see, these people, they were the criminals in this enterprise. It's like the mid-level people they want to get rid of. That's kind of, the middle has to go. Throughout history, people attack the middle. When Stalin rose to power in the Soviet Union, he went after the kulaks, the landed class, the middle class. He went after the middle. And that's what they did with the lockdowns. The greatest transfer of wealth in the history of mankind has begun, and they transferred the wealth of the middle class of the United States to the richest 1% of 1%, the trillionaire class, right? But I think what they're going to use this financial crash for, and then not only the currency aspect of it, Kinsey, but they want their central bank digital currency, but
Yeah,
they'll use it to go after their enemies. They'll go after the
for sure.
middlemen.
Exactly. I'm
Little
glad that you
insight.
brought this up. I should have shared this link with you from the get-go. Totally went over my head to share this. Did you see or did you hear about the simulated cyber attack on global financial systems? The IMF and 10 other countries were
Yes.
involved with putting this together. That totally just came to my head since you were talking about the Fed and everything like that. I mean, that isn't, if you go and read that article, it is scary. It's crippling because it's what I see coming. And then also, Tony, during the same time that they were doing that simulation is the same time that we had that really wonky stuff happen in crypto. I'm not saying that it's connected, but I'm saying
But it
that's a bit
probably is.
odd because who would have, but it probably is. I mean, how I don't know. Just to get an idea, I thought it was a beta test for something, and then this news comes out, and I track down the dates of when it happened, and it just went ding in my head, and I'm like, wait, we just had this really interesting sort of crypto thing because their war game type scenario, it started on the 9th. I think it was a 10-day type thing, but the crypto thing was on the 14th. Something else just to throw out there is that mysterious type spyware or, virus that we all have in our computers now is also, all that's there. And this all starts happening as they're simulating cyber attacks on the global financial system. I just found that all too odd. Lots of weird little wonky things are coming together, and it makes my little head just starts racing because I'm like, wait, could all of this be connected, or am I crazy for thinking that this could be connected? I don't know, but I wouldn't put it past them.
Well, you've come to the right place for conspiracy analyzing. That's that's what I do multiple times a week. And then I eat, sleep, and breathe precious metals in these markets. And the Luciferian bankster notes. That's real. That's something I actually think is causing most of the evil on this planet. And they run simulations. They also tell you what they're going to do next. I found that it's like when a supervillain monologues at the end of
Yes.
at the end of a movie, and how they got to tell you exactly how they did it, and you just fell for it, but they told you all along. It's like they have to do it. They have to
Mm-hmm.
monologue. But I wanted to go to the chat real quick. We got Randall Henderson. He put a question in the chat. He says, "I'm closing out a $35,000 annuity. Tony, should I just buy $35,000 worth of silver and gold? Probably not. Probably not 35,000. If you got 35K and you close it out, I mean, I would look at some more. And I think Randall does, gardening and tree planting and harvesting and all sorts of canning and all sorts of other things. I would, I'd call me tomorrow though, because I've got some gold that I bought today. I'll give you a good deal on that you won't find anywhere else. I've got some gold bars and a 1 ounce gold eagle and a couple other items that came in the last few days. Happy to give you a good deal on that, Randall. But yeah, maybe a little bit of it, but not all of it. Unless you're just totally prepared, unless you have everything in place, I wouldn't put the whole thing in there. No, that's
Mm-hmm.
unnecessary. It's just necessary to understand that gold and silver are money. So treat it like you would if you wanted to save, like a piggy bank. You wanted to save your cash. That's what I would do. What do you think, Kinsey?
Yeah, if we're talking about, that much money, heck, even if you only have, say, $1,000 or $5,000, this is the same sort of method applied to any amount of money that you have. It should be divided into different categories of where you feel you need or want to invest. If say I just magically get 35,000 tomorrow, I'm not going to put the entire thing into gold and silver. Like, I'm probably going to put 5 to 10% of it. That this is mine. Don't no one copy what I'm saying. This is probably what I would do. 5 to 10% of it in gold and silver. And that's with gold and silver. It's not one or the other. a good portion of it would probably go into crypto. Most of us have debts that need to be paid. A good chunk of that, a majority of that would go into paying debts, because then that's debt that I don't have to worry about later, which frees up every other bit of income that you have after debt is gone to invest however you want. A good chunk of it would probably go into some cryptocurrencies as well, seeds, guns, ammo. I need another water tank. It's always good to be able to hold more water.
Yes,
So I'd definitely buy one of those.
absolutely. I'm learning that. It's like everything's a water collection point. We
Mm,
got to get more water collection points.
yes.
We live off rainwater, especially if I'm not able to go to town. We're gonna need every drop. Eric Hale in the chat says, "Sup, man? I love that guy. He's one of my favorite people around Branson. Good to see you here, sir." And of course, Raybo's in the chat. We love Raybo. I talked to about Andrea C earlier, and of course, Jim Chambers all the way at the top. He was ready for us. Like 1 minute in, he said, "Merry Christmas."
Oh, wow.
Wow, yeah, we're people are waiting for us on Tuesday evenings. Did you know that, Kenzie?
I didn't know that.
You've become famous. People only want to know
Randall
about
also
you when they text you.
said, Randall
People
said
only
I'm
want to
on
know
a
how
cell
Kenzie's doing.
phone.
Yeah, I think
I'm
the
doing okay.
NSA is jamming your signal, kid. Don't worry about it. Let's
Obsolete.
go to you're good now. You're not obsolete. You're not the obsolete man. I'll have to play that next time from the Twilight Zone. Let's look at this article up on Forbes. Actually, no, let's not do the Forbes article. 1 second. I had another one I pulled up here just for you guys. There we are. Let me pull this around. This is off the NASDAQ. Then we'll go to the Forbes. I was only predicting the future, ladies and gentlemen. This is NASDAQ.com. Precious gold gains as dollar weakens. Omicron fears loom. Did you know that Omicron, the fears are looming over at the markets?
Looming.
They're
No, I
looming.
do see something coming though. I mean, we just got our something I've noticed since being on TikTok, Tony, is whenever I share little dystopic type videos over there, people always say, "Oh, I'm safe because I'm in Texas or I'm in Florida." And then, like on the news, how you were saying earlier tonight that they project things to you. I saw on the news last night that the first man in the US has died of Omicron in Texas. He did have underlying health issues, but I'm like, hey, Texas, y'all better buckle up because they're coming for you. They're going to use you as an example.
Well, I think, they didn't have all the rest of their propaganda and subterfuge and skullduggery in place before when they launched Omicron. It was like, hey, it's coming out. View the preview video here. It's going to be huge. It's going to fill up all the hospitals. It's the worst thing. Then they rolled it out in a clown formation where you had people saying it's like you had this doctor associated with the World Health Organization saying it was like Ebola. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, what is going on here? I mean, what are you guys doing? And then, yeah, it's definitely the reason it's not Omicron. But when you look at the headlines, you want to try to figure out what's going on. This is being used as something else. That's why you should be concerned when they keep running the headlines, not because of the thing itself, but because of the headlines. And it has to do with like Janet Yellen, who's head of the Treasury Department, and Jerome Powell, who's head of the Federal Reserve. Within 48 hours, they gave the same press release that Omicron was going to be the reason that the U.S. suffers an economic setback. They're just already washing their hands of what they've done, and this is the cover that I'm, getting people to pay attention to. Always look at the headline before the headline. Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at this little article here. Gold prices firmed on Tuesday as a dip in the U.S. dollar and risk posed to a global economic growth from a surge in the Omicron variant cases that burnished the metal's safe haven appeal. And notice this article comes out the exact same day that your article that you sent me about how you should look other places.
Yeah.
And gold is not really where you want. What you want to do is get into these. You want to play with these other metals. I'm like, what other metals?
See, they've got news for all of us, so all of us feel better about whatever we're doing, whatever you invest in. Because I've noticed that the gold and silver,
Yeah.
it really, really And I'm not trying to speak badly on any groups out there, but there is a group emerged, that has as much silver as possible, and they're all over Reddit forums. And a good chunk of the people that went all in, this question earlier in chat, put it
Breaking
all
up
in
just a little
silver.
bit, Kenzie.
No, a majority.
You're
Damn.
breaking up just a little bit. Let your computer reboot. I'll bring you back up. So, yeah, she's absolutely right. I mean, there's a news for all of us. There's a headline that is supposed to suit what you're looking for, and what I'm telling you to do is read beyond them, which is it's not easy. It's something that I was talking about today. Is like when impeachment happened in September of 2019. I was in Washington D.C. when they voted to start the impeachment of Donald Trump, and I thought, okay. And then of course this had to do with the articles and setting the trial. And my immediate question was, and if you go back and listen to my shows from then, I don't know why you would, but if you do, you'll find that I was asking a question beyond the headlines. I go, what else is going on now? And that happened to be that the Federal Reserve, and I don't think any major media outlet covered this, but the Federal Reserve was not printing, but giving away and creating $6 trillion new dollars to give to the repo markets, the overnights. And that's the story behind the story, right? They run these massive cover operations with things that don't even matter, like the impeachment of Trump. Like, you have that should have been a clue for all the 5D chess people when he hired Alan Dershowitz, but it's just another part of the establishment game. Meanwhile, we're all just, fighting amongst ourselves, and they're doing other things. They're in a different reality. I'm talking about the bankster class, the financial class, because everything tracks back to it. So just something to be aware of, looking behind the headlines. And it won't necessarily be that it's Omicron or anything like that. It's going to be that it's associated with the financial markets. All right. So I told everybody, Kenzie, that I would pull up a Forbes article, and now I'm fulfilling that promise. And this has to do with, I think isn't Jack Dorsey one of your heroes, Kenzie? Don't you?
Definitely not.
Don't you? He almost made me, and some people have talked me out of it. I was like, when he kept growing his beard, I was like, I don't know if I can have a beard anymore, just because of Jack Dorsey. I didn't want to even remotely look like, I don't look like him, but I just thought there was something weird about him, something very automaton like. But he's got a stake in Bitcoin, so I can't. He's not 100%. He's not Zuckerberg, but Bitcoin will replace the U.S. dollar, says Jack Dorsey. Made a radical prediction as the price suddenly surges, boosting Ethereum. This is on Forbes as of today. Former Twitter chief executive Jack Dorsey, who recently quit the social media giant he co-founded, grows his payment company, which I guess is that Square. And he has predicted Bitcoin will eventually replace the U.S. dollar. The Bitcoin price, having surged over the last 12 months, has fallen back in recent weeks, losing more than 30% of its value in over a month. The recent Bitcoin price collapse has also hit the Ethereum price, which is down almost 20%. But Bitcoin leaped higher shortly after Dorsey's tweet, however, reversing a downward trend over the last few days that added 5% to the Bitcoin price over the last 24-hour period and boosting the Ethereum price. Well, yeah, I think Bitcoin's another one of those things that is strangely undervalued. My logic for that is that I think cryptos are the new stock market. So just think of the stock market as you know it. Individual stocks, companies that go public, based off financials, blah, 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 and based off, 1,000 times earnings and all the rest. Cryptocurrency is a revolutionary technology, kind of like the NFTs, which I don't even understand completely, but I do understand that they are what's next, right? You don't have to be a genius to figure out that what old, especially the stocks and the multinationals, that's something that's old hat. And Bitcoin to me will be one of those things that could be a lifeboat, could be a place to just, I don't know. It's kind of like in between ventures. Like you use Bitcoin as money. It's also savings. It's also a stock. It's also all these things. It's a lot of things in one. And Dorsey, is he right about Bitcoin replacing the U.S. dollar, Kenzie?
If people are invested in Bitcoin, they sure better hope not, because the whole point of Bitcoin is supposed to be your new store of wealth, right? So if you're transacting in it every day, like you would normal dollars, then it's not so much a store of wealth anymore. Maybe for those that had gotten in so very early, some of us, it would still be okay, but I don't think that that's what people should be looking for. There's other cryptos that make a lot more sense for that. In fact, I sent you a link with Rosie Rios, she's our US treasurer, and she's actually saying that I don't know why she's saying this, the trade is already left the station as far as when goes.
I think the NSA is jamming your signal again, Kenzie. I'll let you back on in just a second.
Seriously?
Yeah, Kenzie's got a whole new system, and she's working out the kinks. I'm not mad at it at all. She does a great job. I think I'll let her connection catch up. But I think Dorsey has a point there, although I think also Kenzie has a point. I mean, if you mean the U.S. dollar as a way to transact between companies and individuals, and a way to settle debts and all that, if you think of the U.S. dollar in that way, then yes, it could replace the U.S. dollar. But if you're thinking that it'll be controlled by a central bank, and no, that's what the central bank digital currency is. And it's tough to say. I mean, there is a reason why the Pentagon would go through a war game scenario. And you guys can look this up. And this is about a year ago, or maybe a little less than a year, right? I think right after Biden was installed. And the Pentagon ran a war game on a Gen Z Bitcoin revolt. That's what they called it. And they're going to war game out how to keep the supremacy of the petrodollar, right? You do that through the point of a bayonet. It hasn't, this soft, projection of hegemonic power that the U.S. has had, right? It has an empire, but not like previous empires. It doesn't rule that way. It rules through currency. It rules through debt and what is borrowed. It rules through its treaties, through energy, right? Through routes and other things. And this is all on the geopolitical stage. It's huge. And as you see the writings on the wall for these big companies, moving out, and other countries and central banks moving away slowly. It's not overnight, but they're moving away from the U.S. dollar. I mean, if the people of the United States can see the inflation, what do you think some of these people holding U.S. treasuries see?
Yeah.
What do you think some of these major central banks and financial players, you don't think they see the U.S. dollar is losing that luster? Well, that was inevitable. We used to have a dollar as good as gold, and that changed. It changed a few different times, and it hasn't been the same since the Federal Reserve, but really 1971. So it's been 50 years. It's been 50 years since we had the ability to back our dollar with something, and it's been all over the place. And then you add in the last few years, and it looks like, and I happen to agree with the author on LouRockwell.com from a few days ago, that it's on purpose, right? They're crashing the U.S. economy because they're going to be the ones who do it, right? It's like if you want to know who the arsonist is, they'll probably tell you where the next fire is going to be. Right? And that's usually who is burning things down, is the person who can predict it, right? That's they've caught a lot of criminals that way. And the elite, they have to tell you what they're doing, and they certainly are. I mean, these moves that they're making are antithetical to a healthy economy. So part of the message here, and I know, Kenzie, do I have you back? I have your audio back?
I hope so.
Oh, she's added to the chat. Let me see if I can add her. Well, she's added, folks. I still have Kenzie. I can still see her icon, but I can't hear her. How about now, Kenzie?
Test 1, 2, 3.
1, 2. You got it. We got you.
By the way, folks, I'm not on my PC. I'm on my cell phone because my internet is terrible. Like I said, becoming obsolete. So it's not a PC issue.
Mr.
It's just
Wordsworth. You ever seen, you need to go watch the old Twilight Zones, Kenzie.
I
Oh,
used to watch them.
I tell you what, I have got, it's almost Christmas. I have a Christmas present for you, and I want to wish everyone here a Merry Christmas. Like, why haven't we done that already? We're not gonna. We'll be on after Christmas next week on Tuesday, but want to wish everyone here all over the stream, Aftermath.fm. Thanks everyone for listening and tuning in. Merry Christmas. We'll be excited and ready for new shows next week and into 2022. But I want to offer you a chance to get a special commemorative silver dollar. Kenzie, I'm going to quiz you. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. Kenzie's ready. There's the beginning of the Wise Wolf Golden Crypto Show. I start with some music. Do you know what that music is? What show is that a theme song for?
I don't know. And I know you've told me before, and I don't know.
I don't think I've ever told you. I've played many different ones, but I've stuck with the same one for about the last couple months, and I haven't mentioned it. I don't think I've ever told you, and I was wondering if you knew. I mean, you're Gen Z, but you might be a connoisseur of old TV shows. It's Magnum PI. Magnum PI. And I was like, if she guesses that, she's going to be like the ultimate pop culture trivia guest. But you're almost there. I know that you've heard it before. Anyway, but I'll still give you. I have gold and silver for you anyway, so don't worry about it. It doesn't negate from your current stash of presents from Wise Wolf. Okay, well, I hope I got to everybody in the chat. I certainly appreciate everybody joining, and folks over on the Aftermath.fm chat. I think I know I'm listed there. I'm listed as Wise Wolf. I don't know if I've got on the right system or whatever. We'll check it tomorrow when I'm on the radio show. But I'm learning. I'm my own producer. Beans the Brave, my 13-pound Chihuahua, is only in charge of security and booking guests, but not actually production. I can't put that on her. All right. Well, you got anything you want to plug, Kenzie? I know you're the host of Fringe Files. You've got lots of projects going on.
Yeah. So hopefully, I guess with the internet being bad, I'm not doing a show tonight either. I need to figure out what's going on. I'm back from suspension, but I haven't been able to do anything. Yeah, I post to TikTok though, so I'm just your average TikToker now, and I did apply for Rockfin, so hopefully you guys will be able to catch me there in the future.
Oh, that would be great. Are you now? I thought in order to go to TikTok, you had to get a medical degree and or a nursing degree.
I mean, I got the same degree as Bill Gates. I think I'm pretty qualified.
I'm just thinking of the TikTok dancing nurses through 2020 and like the dystopic images of that. I hope. What are you doing over on TikTok? Well, we got about 40 seconds left.
I'm just sharing like the most dystopic type videos that you could find. I mean, some of these quarantine facilities in Canada, Tony, they're running out of food. There's like food shortages within the quarantine facility, and people are not happy about it. So weird stuff like that you're not going to find on normal media.
Well, that's why you're on this show. That's stuff I can't find on normal media. I mean, I'm even looking all the time. You find stuff that I don't. So really glad to have you here. Folks, we've got about 30 seconds left. Gold today, 1,789 Luciferian Bankster notes per troy ounce. Silver's at 22.53 cents. Silver's up 27 cents. Can you believe it, Kenzie? Pack your bags.
Woo!
That's a vacation written all on all your silver holdings, up 20 cents over last night. So buckle up. All right, folks, we'll be back next week. We'll talk gold, crypto, entrepreneurial, whatever happens with when Kenzie and I go live. We'll talk about it, and we hope that we're bringing some value to the airwaves. We appreciate you, because in a world of fiat reality, the truth is solid gold. See you next time.